like before she started school. Because my wife was the only one that understood her. She would say things to us, I have no idea. So I look at my wife, it's like, okay, what'd she say? Her preschool teachers would be like, oh, we don't understand. So she actually had to go do speech therapy because she had so much fluid in her ears, she was not hearing the sounds correctly. So she sounded like she had her mouth full of mashed potatoes all the time, talking. So on that. She still has a little bit of hearing issues still after a couple of rounds of this, because she also had a little problem where the tube moved to as it healed, got on the edge, so she has a little bit of scarring in there and stuff like that. Now, so this is issues with that, but in the cochlea is where you actually hear. It's this snail-like structure, and in these tubes are little hairs, little tiny hairs. This is where the hearing is actually done. And each of these little, think of all these little hairs are kind of like the strings of a piano. As you go through the piano, all the strings, each string represents a different frequency. And as sound waves go through there's fluid inside of here. So as the sound goes through that fluid, it activates different hairs. It stimulates different hairs, and those hairs send an electrical signal through the nerves up to the brain. Now the other part of the cochlea is this, are the semicircular canals. This is your balance system. This is what keeps you balanced on that. This is how you know. Why do you know? Even with your eyes closed, you know if you're bending forward, sideways, around, and going around. This is even if you're in a kind of enclosed space, how you can feel like inside an airplane, feeling it moving. This is also where sometimes air sickness and car sickness come from, because your eyes see one thing and your ears are saying something else. Your ears are saying, you're moving, and your eyes say, no, I'm not. And they get in this fight. Your brain gets in this fight. But this is also when you get like infections, you get ear infections, you get fevers. This is also, things happen with the semicircular canals, why you feel vertigo and things like that. They get pressure on them from other places. But this is what affects, you stand up, you feel really dizzy, and when you're sick and stuff like that. That's all part of, it's all in your hearing system. What happens sometimes, like this, the ones on this side have one set of signals, and ones on this side have another set of signals, and they don't match. So let's see if we have a couple. You can see the sound comes in and it hits there. So they unravel it. This is an animation of kind of what happens inside of there. How as the sounds come in, different ones get activated. This is also when you're getting those hearing tests. What they're doing is trying to activate different parts of your hearing so they can see if you have where you're hearing, you might be having hearing loss. Well, a lot of times, repetitive, if you have a low repetitive sound, you like knock out the thing. You kill this part right here, so you lose this frequency. Or you might lose chunks because one big explosion might lose out chunks. Usually we're not going to lose all your hearing. She might lose parts of it on there.
Why?
It's kind of, they're little hairs, right? And they're connected to It's kind of like you kill the hair. And it doesn't grow back.
So deaf people...
Well, okay, deafness, there's lots of reasons for deafness. There's not just...
The stereocilia that project from hair cells vibrate in response to sound waves. Here, the bundle of stereocilia projecting from a single hair cell is pushed with laser tweezers to simulate this movement. Movement opens stress-activated ion channels in the plasma membrane, leading to membrane depolarization. This is translated into the perception of sound. Moving an individual stereocilium demonstrates the flexible attachment of these structures to the cell body.
Whatever laser tweezers are. Using light somehow to manipulate. but they move. And it's, the trouble is, like, you go to a rock concert, you ever go to a big concert, and after you get out of the concert, your ears are ringing? It's because basically you've done some damage. They're so overstimulated that they just keep either sending out signals or they're kind of touching the ones next to them because they get tired, and you get this ringing. You do enough damage to them, they ring all the time. You get tinnitus. It's like constant ringing in your ears. Now you can get short term. This is like, I mean, it's like loud, so loud that you cannot concentrate. Yeah, that's, if you have that ringing, it goes away after a while. But still, you've done some damage. Damage to your ears. Now, deafness, there's lots of ways to get deaf. I mean, there's just like there's lots of reasons to be blind, there's lots of reasons to be deaf. I mean, there's problems with the nerves, problems with the different structures in here, calcification of the bones, things like that, rupturing eardrums, losing parts of your hearing. But it's like, I know there are certain frequencies I lost kind of when I was in the Navy because of being in the engine rooms and not always wearing my hearing protection. Certain discrete frequencies. That's what happens. Like if you work in the stand machine, day after day, it's that day after day after day after day. Even though it might be at a low level, eventually you could develop hearing loss on that frequency. So that's over a long period. That's why sustained noise. That's why you guys in your little iPods and putting them up too high, they cause hearing damage. Not one time, but as you use them more and more and more. And I think I've read a few articles where they're starting to see some of this damage. Because put it this way, I mean, the whole idea behind the Walkman, this is, when I first got it, the idea was you can hear your music and no one else can. If everyone else can hear your music, it's way too loud. I mean, it's something like those little earbuds. I mean, it's kind of like you having those things way up. It'd be like going to a Metallica concert and standing right next to the speaker, like with your ear against the speaker.
It's really like that?
Yeah, it is. Or worse. Or worse.
Or worse. I've been doing that for a long time.
That's what I mean. That's why they say that this hearing damage on that. You got to be careful with that. You know, I swear, I want to invest in hearing aids, thumb replacements, thumb joint replacements from either game controllers and text messaging, and hip replacements for all you guys who sag and have to walk around with your legs all spread out. You're going to have hip dysplasia like golden retrievers. You know, you have to replace your hips.
Or German Shepherds.
You know, on that. I believe that's going to be the growth industry of the future. You know. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, except they have no impulse control. They react. In other words, they react too fast. They have no impulse control. I'm sure he does not want to see you. Now, sound propagation. Sound is a longitudinal wave. It is that series of compressions. And so those compressions and rarefactions. You know, you saw the tuning fork. It pushes out. It comes back in. And that's what pushes on your eardrum. Those compressions and rarefactions push on your eardrum. Sound needs a medium. It needs something to carry it. No medium, no sound. Because if I took that little box there, this little bell jar, and I took the air out, would you be able to hear the bell anymore? No, the bell would not be heard anymore. Can I still see it? Well, so what does that tell you about light? Does light need a medium? No. Light does not need a medium. It's because it's two ways, not just one way. It's two ways. Two ways. Light does not. This does. Need a medium. Cannot travel through a vacuum. And depending on what the medium is, you can decide how fast it goes. We don't need more time in this slide. All right, so the speed of sound. The speed of sound. obviously, sound takes time to get something. I mean, if you've ever been a long way from, like when you go, it's been a long way for fireworks, you see the firework go off, and then you hear it. Or lightning, you see the lightning, and then you hear the thunder. It takes time for that to happen. And in general, sound will travel faster in solids than liquids, which are faster than gases. And the speed of sound in a material is a function of how fast that material can pass on that sound energy. So it's not just about that it's a solid. Different solids have different rates. It's how fast can this energy be passed from one molecule to the next molecule. Because it's kind of like dominoes. And solids and liquids are faster. I mean, a liquid would be faster than a gas. Because where a gas, I have to take the energy from here and travel this distance to pass it on to the next one. So there's that distance to be covered. With liquids, because liquids don't have that solid structure, there's more give and take. There's more give to it. Whereas solids, they have that more rigid structure. And there's some elasticity issues and things like that. To give you some idea, basically, speeds of sound, it's like in air. Air at 0 degrees Celsius, we're talking like 331 meters per second, which would be about 740 miles per hour. That's how fast sound is at 0 degrees Celsius. So when you get up to about room temperature now, the speed of sound in here is about 765 miles per hour. As things get warmer, speed is going to go up. Seawater. Seawater is around 1560 meters per second, which would be about 3,500 miles per hour. So in order for a submarine to break the sound barrier and get that shock wave we talked about with airplanes, it would have to be able to go 3,500 miles per hour. I mean, there's very few aircraft that have ever gone that fast in air. You know. Steel. Solid. We're talking somewhere around 5,000 meters per second, which is around 11,000 miles per hour. So it's moving through solids. Something like through concrete, it's moving about 3,000 meters per second and things like that. Even through wood, it's moving about 4,000 meters per second. Steel. Now remember, like an explosion, what you feel, that is actually a sound wave. I mean, it really is. It's a compression wave. So it is a sound wave. That's what does the damage to things. It's that pressure wave. And that's what, when you set off explosives, you're setting off that explosive, that pressure wave, moving through the air. But this is why you feel it through the ground before you feel it in the air on that. Things like that. We are actually going to be doing a lab soon about speed of sound in air. Oh, sorry. Anybody need more time on this one? So in air, the primary factor is temperature. If I was dealing with water, water gets a little more complicated because although temperature is a big one, you also have salinity, how much stuff is in the water, salt stuff. You have pressure. What is the pressure of that? And a number of other things. This is what's called the sonar equation. When I was in college, being an oceanography major, we deal with the ocean.